So we're out here with the Ecovacs Goat 3000. I suppose anyone who's watched my previous reviews on these robotic mowers, I do actually use them quite intensively prior to doing a review on them to give kind of an honest appraisal of the whole thing. So one of the things that this advertises is it's pretty much ready to go out the box. And one of the unusual things is as well with it, it does not have an RTK. So this just runs using LiDAR and sight as well combined, and it can also detect whether it's been lifted off the ground, etc. All those usual things, but it is simpler to set up because there is no RTK. And so essentially you plug it in and then from there you set it up, and that, as I will demonstrate later with the unboxing, etc., you will see as I briefly discuss that actually you can put it places where you can't put other robotic mowers that have RTK. Here we have two motions and we have a Yarbo. You'll notice this and you'll notice this. Those are RTK stations. So they're looking up for satellites, etc. This one, there is no station here, but it is up on the roof. So this is in a stark contrast that what you see here is essentially the hardware that you've got. There is no RTK because it operates on LiDAR. So this Goat 3000 is just adds that extra ease of setup that you wouldn't usually get. Now I've been using this for several weeks now, so it's being fairly intensively used. And as you can see on my screen, I've actually got a big portion of the garden already mapped out, but not all areas. So we will, in a minute, we'll go on to show you how to map an area with this and how easy or difficult that is in comparison to other mowers. But just whilst we're here and you're seeing this do its thing, this set off this morning automatically. You can see where it is on the map. You can see the lighter green area. That lighter green area, that is actually where it's already mowed. Now, if I was to stand in front of it, which I'm not going to do because I don't want to disrupt its schedule, if I stood in front of it, it would see me and go around me because of that LiDAR. So it's always painting essentially a picture before it to work out what its environment is like. So that is one useful feature. Not only that, you'll see now currently it's under a tree. Another big benefit of this is that you're never losing its signal, i.e. where it thinks it is. It doesn't matter because it's using LiDAR, it's not using satellites. So the only real other robot you can get, as you probably know if you're watching this video, is one with a boundary wire that doesn't require satellite either. This goes a step further where you're not restricted in complex areas like our garden, ridiculously complex. The boundary wire wouldn't make any sense at all. You need multiple mowers to do our garden. That just doesn't make sense. So this is why we originally went with RTK robotic mowers, and now we've got this one. So yeah, uses LiDAR, it's constantly looking all the time. So even when it's mapped out the no-go areas, etc., it's still looking for obstacles. So for example, over here, if the cameraman spins around, you'll see, not by coincidence, we've actually got one of these very things that might happen, like that could be left out, for example. Now this isn't an issue because the LiDAR sees it and it goes round it. So you ain't got to worry about that. Things like this are too small, so it will, dogs pick these up and then for a joke they put them in the way. I think they do on purpose. That's been out multiple times. I've picked that up several times. See it dragging a stick along there? There we go. So with robotic mowers, they've got, so this has got dual discs. So dual disc multi-blade. Now the Momotion that you can go and see on our channel has dual discs multi-blade left and right opposing each other. This has basically a front disc and rear disc. They're slightly offset and pushed back from each other. It brings across this true edge technology is what they call it, where you can cut nigh on as close as possible to the edge of the boundary that you put in place, which some leave a bit of a gap, which obviously then you need to go and trim, or I think you in the US would call it weed whacker, but we would go and trim the edges then. But this is the idea of this one, is to try and get up as close as possible to the edge. One thing I've noticed from use is that the leaves that you can possibly hear it hitting, it seems to clear those a little bit better with that offset blade thing going on. You can see it flicks them quite far. Now obviously what you're looking at is a lawn that's been maintained, well, as in really poorly maintained in terms of the colour of it, etc. I'm talking about in terms of grass height. Well, this has been going, as I say, for several weeks now, and that's why it's so low. So what it's doing at the moment really is just chopping off the very, very top of blades of grass very finely. And this is one of the advantages of robotic mowers, is they're constantly going around, constantly keeping it low. We haven't filled anything with grass cuttings for a couple of years now, basically, because these things will just keep it so finely cut. Anyhow, so on top, you don't just need an app, you do need an app to go with it. Also, it has a screen on top. The screen on top tells you what it's doing. So it will display error messages. At the moment it just says on. You've got play button, OK, and you've got the return to station button. So it will return to home once the charge gets low. It will know how far away it is from the station, how far it needs to go back basically, calculate when it needs to stop in terms of percentage, and then stop the scheduled mow and return back. If it tips up, etc., it will stop. The schedule allows for essentially not going out when you might have issues with hedgehogs and things like that. We don't, weirdly, in this huge garden, we don't get hedgehogs as far as we know, and over the last couple of years never had any issues with hedgehogs or anything like that. But this has got built into it in terms of AI recognition of those obstacles such as bulls and things like that, and animals, and so it will actually automatically recognise. So on the map that's now on my screen, as it cuts behind me, all those little red circles there, they are all no-go zones that I've manually drawn around. And the dark green, as I zoom in there, the dark green is obstacles it's seen itself in terms of shrubs and things. So it's avoided them. And so it will, it depends how straightforward your garden is, it will actually avoid borders and things itself. So I did a test, I let it just run on its own and just do its own thing. And I found it, our garden, a bit too much for it to cope with in terms of that. So where we are right now, you would have seen in the background a trampoline. Well, that trampoline has never been programmed in. I think I'm right in saying it's never been caught up on it. And as you can kind of see, the grass is long in certain areas because it has avoided them. Now this brings me on to another point, and you can turn this off in settings. These here, these weeds are too long, they're too high, and so it's seen them as plants. So there is that. Now you can adjust that in settings. There is actually a way of doing that. You've got your mowing heights, but then you've got avoidance mode. As you've got high grass, obstacle avoidance will be performed for objects with a height of 20 centimeters or lower. And so it just increases that height slightly. Now, this can leave certain things where you've got growth where you don't want it, but at the same time, one benefit is it doesn't cut things down that you do want. And so you've got this weird play between, do you want it to be super aggressive and cut things down like this? If you do, you've got to accept that it at some times is going to cut off some beautiful flowers that you've just bought. Or you can have it in the middle where it kind of does leave stuff and it goes around. So I would say it's got the more gentle approach. Now another vehicle that we got here, another robot, is the Yarbo, and that thing just crushes anything. And so the pain of it smashing in and cutting down young saplings and things like that, we've experienced. And out of the two, I think I'd rather have this left than destroyed, because at least I can handle this later on, rather than going, oh great, we just spent whatever, £40 on an Acer that's now been shredded and unlikely to survive. So it's kind of like you play around those things, but the LiDAR, it does seem good in terms of avoiding stuff. So yeah, what we're going to do in a minute is I'm going to stop the schedule. I'm just trying to think of other things that would be helpful for you to know when you're buying one. The inclines, so you'll kind of see, you'll see here, if we keep the camera low, I'll try and demonstrate with me stood on this hill. This is steep. Now this isn't four-wheel drive. So the Motion that we got, the Luba 2 and the Motion Mini, both those are four-wheel drive, and obviously they cope with this like a piece of cake. This is got two wheels on the back with big spikes on it, but then just two dolly wheels on the front. And so there is no issue when it climbs a hill dead on or straight down. But in terms of going cross camber, it is fighting against it, but it has managed this absolutely fine. it has been perfect on it. So at the moment, it itself is choosing not to go up this hill. It's made this up. So it knows somehow through the LiDAR that this is a basin area essentially. And so it's stopping there and turning around, but it will tackle this later on. So it'll come back up here and it'll cut all this behind it, which is pretty incredible really. It's doing the sensible thing at the moment. Not only that, the pattern that it's following is randomized to a degree, so you don't get wear patterns in your lawn. As I say, this lawn is so poorly constructed. You've got ants, hills and all sorts on it. But if you had a beautiful lawn, you might actually be worried about it leaving the same marks over and over because it follows the same path each time. It's going to wear out parts of the lawn. This randomizes, and so you don't get that. So previously it went up and down. Last time it did its mow, now it's going across and it's changed the way it cuts. So that's pretty impressive. So in terms of the app, so if we quickly look at that, you can see all these options on here. Now this is probably better just done online, having a little look, but you can see in there straight away you've got rain sensor. That's just kind of normal now. This will, if the rain sensor sat on the top, if it basically rain covers that little panel on top, it goes, oh, it's raining, it heads back, it charges up, and it will sit there and wait 3 hours after that detection to see whether it should go back out. And it will do. Now with the robot mowers, I've never really had any issues with cutting in the rain, so you probably could just cut in the rain. But if it's thick grass, this is so well maintained now that it's cut down to a level that you could probably carry on. But if you've got thicker grass, obviously that's going to be a problem. So you can see 3 hours out. Animal protection we've spoken about already, but you've got edge mowing, cross boundary mowing, map along boundaries, mow along boundaries. Mowing direction I just talked about. Change mowing direction by week. So as in, this is a Monday, Friday when it did its cut, I think it was Friday, it cut down and now it's cutting across, so it's done that itself. And then you've got the mowing modes in the areas, etc. You can already see that the duration of the logs, it's done 27 hours and 40 minutes worth of mowing. So it kind of tells you this isn't an out the box and then, oh, look how brilliant this is, and then put it back in the box and sell it on. This has actually gone through its paces. We have had issues that I've contacted Ecovacs about, and they've been able to address those issues straight away, because obviously it's a new product, and so we've been playing with this over that period of time, and so it might be released now. It's taken us so long to get this out, but want to give these things a fair shout. So yeah, so far it's been spot on. If the mower gets jammed, so the brilliant one is a pine cone, because they're diamond, sort of triangle shaped, diamond shaped. They slot in and get stuck between the blades. As they dig into it, they catch it, and all of our robotic mowers, they're stumped by this. Essentially there's guards on the side and it whips it round, gets wedged because of its shape, jams the thing. This does not just sit there saying jammed. It will try for ages to unjam itself. If it can, it returns to the charge station. Now that is brilliant. What the motion does is it jams and then sits there saying I'm jammed. If you're out all day, by the time you get back, it's switched itself off. Now sometimes that can be out on full view of the public, for example. So if you've got a lawn that's out, you really don't want it to get jammed there, because it just sits there all day, some little oik's going to come along and nick it. This one will return back. Once it says, now actually I've tried to clear it, can't clear it, heads back to the charge station, charges back up, lets you know through the app I've got a jam. Come back home, pick it up, remove the jam, and you can just press play again and it will go off back to where it finished and where the jam was. So that is good. So there has been a couple of firmware updates since I received it. So yeah, what I might do now, I think, is cancel this schedule that you can see here, and then we'll go and map a brand new area and just run through that mapping process. The way I've done this with this on the test is this is a huge mapped out area, but this zone is somewhere different, as in I'm gonna have to travel through, and we'll see how it creates pathways between it, and we'll head out there. It's quite a complex one as well. It's basically a tiny little orchard with multiple little apple trees or fruit trees, and so we're going map that right now. Right, so I'm just going to end it. Are you sure you want to end the mowing task? Yes, I am. So then it immediately stops. That's how responsive it is. If I say find my robot, it says I'm here. You can also control the volume, so you can drag it all the way up. The problem with that is, I have found, it's a bit too chatty, so I turned it off. So it will say front disc starting, where it goes bing, front disc starting, and then it'll do rear disc starting, bing, and it does that. And if it's in a very tight area, very often it seems to switch between those front and rear discs at certain moments, and it's usually over where a neighbour is. And so I've been out in the garden just doing something here, bing, 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 bing. It's like, oh man. So actually, if you mute it, which you can actually do, which is good, then you can just mute that. It doesn't do any of those things, but the Fine robot still works. It says I'm here. So if you've lost it, it's gone somewhere, you can find it. Whoa, off she goes. So back to the charging station. If we head up this way, so this is quite a steep climb that it's trying to do right now. And it's going across camber, so it's asking quite a lot of a machine that's not four-wheel drive, but those spiky wheels on the back work perfectly. I was expecting it to say charging. It does say charging on the app. Ah, I know why it didn't, because I muted it. So we got a long journey to go and find this other area. Fairly complex, as I say. So areas like this sustain periods of time for those that use an RTK. This is where we get covered in green fly now, if we disturb anything. That use RTK, satellite in other words, they can struggle here because they get hidden from view of the sky. Right, and what we've got here, we are here, being followed by a million green fly. We will map this area now. So I'm going to go here and say start. Now this area I have purposely left, we have had not great weather, but I've left it for a couple of weeks just to let it grow, so it was being maintained by the Emotions and Yarbo, etc. in all our testing. So this area now, I'm going to press start, and then you're going to see a sort of drawing an area. So start, creating a start point, please wait. So this automatic creation of boundary in our garden, I've not found that to be is subpar. If you've got a straightish garden, fairly easy to understand garden, I think it'll be fine. It'll go around and map the area. With this, it doesn't really know where those boundaries are. It's so open, and they're not clear-cut borders either. So, right, let's start mapping. This is a problem where you've got other mowers. You can't cut where the other mowers are because they're on the little base stations. So these are out here, these mowers are out here because of the RTK. They can't be close to the house. Now, part of the thing is, I think I discussed in the unboxing part of this, but they can't be close to the house, which then of course you have to push them away from the house. In this instance where our garden is, well, part of that problem is that it moves it further away from the Wi-Fi, and they need Wi-Fi to set up at least, and to do update firmware. Whereas this doesn't really matter. So this one's pinned up right against the house and near power outlet. So Wi-Fi and power outlets are an issue potentially for the RTK, unless you've got a very open, simple garden. So it's very controllable. Just need to come round, and it's also been a pleasure not cutting this because it's given the bees, etc., opportunity just to munch on the lovely pollen. But it's almost all over now. So with this one, when you're pushing up against edges, this, because as I said to you before, the detecting what it thinks are plants, it won't cut in as tight, I've found, as a Emotion will do, or the Yarbo. It won't push in and give it a bit of a nudge, just to get you going. I've got green fly all over me, going down my neck. So there is that. It's not quite as aggressive, but then again, we've already discussed that, the play-off between aggressive and a bit softer approach, you kind of, this pros and cons. And I think that's a dog again playing tricks. Throw that one up there. Okay, set the end point, and then it's been generated. So let's see. So since the reboot, we had no issue with Bluetooth at all. That completely cleared that little bug. Generated. Okay. Rightio. So, and then it's automatically drawn a path. That is very good. So on my screen, you'll see there that it hasn't drawn a path on the total direction I went. It's just done a path from the closest point, basically. So zone 2, zone 1. We have got, as you can see here, Mr. Cameraman, who's fallen asleep slowly. What we got here is loads of trees. Now, with the Motion Luba 2, you map all these, otherwise it's constantly banging into them, but it uses its touch bar. Let's start mowing this area here, but there we go. So that's now doing its own thing. So it's 289 meters squared, and it's going to do its own thing. So let's just see what it does. So that's cutting now. So you see it's gone around that weed. Oh, the smell of fresh cut grass. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to leave that doing its thing, and then in approximately however long it says it's going to be, let's have a quick look. I don't know. It doesn't give you an estimation of when it'll finish, but it's 4% mode. We're going to leave that now, let it do this entire area. When it thinks it's finished and it's gone back to its charge station, I'll come back out and show you the result. So there you go, and that'll be the final bit of the video. And obviously if you've got any questions and stuff, let us know in the comments, and if you give us a like and subscribe, that would be brilliant. But I'll come back, and to you it'll be instant. Come back, show you the finished result of what it's done here, and then we'll conclude. Right, it has got stuck in here, which which is a bit disappointing. The other ones have never got stuck in there, but again, four-wheel drive and track, so maybe that's part of the problem. It's kind of wedged itself down in there. Might be a hole that I have to just fill if to use this one in this area, but of course it's like a bit of a hole there, so it's got a bit of damage there to the lawn, but just do that. So I'll start it off again. So once you clear the code, you can do it in the app, and you can also use the dashboard on top to start it, but it'll then go off again, as you can see. So about 56% of the way through. Oh, I'm going to move out its way now. Oh, don't go back over there though. It's almost like trying to get stuck in there. It's trying. But of course, the problem with this is an area it hasn't yet done, so not quite sure what it's doing now. I don't know if it's going to go or not. Let's let it do its thing. Keep starting at the discs and stopping it again. Doesn't like that area. I think that's an area you'd have to fill in to get it to do its thing, I think. Probably. But I'm not going to film it continuously because that'd be a very long, boring video. But if it stops doing that over and over again, I'll come back to you. And I stop recording, and it did. It just carried on. It's almost straight away. So patience. But there we go. Anyway, I will come back to you once we've done this area. this is how it is done. So it's done a really good job. One thing that I've been impressed with is the way, if I take you up here, the way it sort of does a fairly good job at handling leaves, which is a surprise because the others don't. And so you can kind of see it's even trying to mulch up a bit of rotten wood and push it back into the ground. So a few runs, this would be mulched up probably, I suspect. So you can kind of see the lines and how it's done that. So it's come out really, really well. The true edge has worked well on this area here. So it's gone around, it couldn't get I wouldn't expect to get any tighter than that. Where it does come unstuck, but I can got a solution to this, is with areas like this where it sees something over its maximum, which was 20 centimeters or below. So when it's higher, so it will leave areas like this. Now it hasn't left it because of these per se, but because of that. But areas where it has left, like these, because of the taller grass, which you can probably hardly even pick up. There it is, almost invisible to the eye on the camera. It goes around. Now, of course, the answer is to prepare the ground for the first time. So if you've got high spots, then all you need to do is either mow it by hand for the first time only, and from there on out, you're never going to have the issue again, or just trim the areas, for example. So it's done around this tree okay, but you can see it's left bits. Now the only reason it's left bits, this bit out here, is because of this bit here. And so it sees that, and so it doesn't want to run over things. And the same with that spot there. So it's left that spot, but because of the branch above, it doesn't push on through, so it doesn't push up against the camera. And then you've got this Lone Ranger here. If I come down, you will see what I'm talking about. That has been left because it's higher than its maximum setting for vision, LiDAR, etc., for cutting. So it leaves some patches. It has left this as well, but that is also because, if I can even find it, there's one there. There's these, they're above 20 centimeters. So it's left those, and the same with that little patch there and that patch there. Now, of course, if I prepped it first, it's pretty simple. Mow it first, then you never have the issue. Apart from the only time you can't stop it. Now this is getting fruit on here, of course, it doesn't push through underneath that or around it. So branches that overhang, it's going to go around and leave it like that. But actually, it's done an incredibly good job. There you go, branch overhanging, grass underneath. So in those instances, unless you cut things back, it won't. But actually, the full-on growing there, as long as that was cut the first time round, there would not be an issue. It's done a really, really good job, especially with the leaves and actually some sticks that fall around this area under these fruit trees. So, okay, let me just summarize. So over the last, whatever it is, something like 3-4 weeks that have been using it, it's performed really well, and having that LiDAR instead of RTK means in areas like this, it's been far less problematic, and it just gets on with it. And so it's not really affected with lighting conditions or view of the sky. So that way you can get around it. The only thing is that its soft approach, which even in its harshest setting does leave, like I've already described, those areas not mown. That can be overcome almost in all cases by mowing first, so prepping the ground first, and then you don't care, because from there on out it will always then mow, as long as you keep it there regular and don't let it grow above its maximum of 20 centimeters or below height. It's always just going to chomp it all up. Love the way it grabs it and throws it at the back. That's with the grass, it throws those clippings nice and far out, so it mulches them up quite well. And so, yeah, from that point of view, it's been very good. The battery life, for the size of the battery, it must be the LiDAR system that sucks out that power from that battery. So this area did here, the orchard, which is just shy of 300 square meters, I think it is. It finished that charge at about 20% battery by the time it got back to the charge station. So that kind of gives you an indication. This isn't really a concern if this is your first robot mower you're thinking of getting. It's not really a concern, because as long as it goes back to charge, you're not even here, you don't care. You're not monitoring it sort of every minute of its cut, so you don't really care from that point of view. But so this really, it just finished off all of this today with 20% battery remaining by the time it got back to the charger. It's quite a way back to the charger. Yeah, so if there's any other questions, etc., let me know and I'll try and answer them. I'm going to still be using this thing as much as I can. I'm going to actually go around and cut with the Luba 2 to get it to where I want the lawn to be, and then use it to continuously cut and put it on the schedule as well with that, and just see how we get on, basically. So there's some features I would like to be introduced would be a harsher, you know, an ability to be able to push against vegetation just a little bit more. That would be nice, or to up the maximum height, which I suspect is a hardware limitation, until you can only, obviously at a certain height, it goes beyond what it can even see. You don't want it, that just basically mean everything it cuts down. So don't know if that's possible, but a bit of harsher push would be good. I will catch you guys on the next one.